Hello, I'm Radhika Chopra, and today I'm going to speak to you about Sikhism in the contemporary world. Historically, Sikhism emerged within the Indian subcontinent in the 16th century as a movement that coalesced around the teachings of a lineage of 10 Sikh gurus, beginning with Guru Nanak, who was the founder, to the final 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh. Over the centuries, history, myth, and migrations melded into a system of beliefs, rituals, and canons that came to be widely accepted and identified as Sikhism. So, over time, Sikhism came to be recognized as Sikhism, which we know today. We often say that historical events and geography shape all major religions. This is certainly true of Sikhism. Both its subcontinental roots and its global spread have shaped and been shaped by what we recognize and what we understand as Sikhism today. So I'd like to begin today with putting before you, how does one recognize Sikhism? What are its key aspects? The first is the ritualized Sikh body. The second, the scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib. And the third, the shrine, the Gurdwara, or the gateway to the divine. I'm going to take up each in turn. I think perhaps one of the most recognizable aspects of Sikhism is the ritualized Sikh body. More specifically, the Sikh male body. Today, in the 21st century, both male and female believers observe very identifiable body codes and body symbols, and they perform rituals that distinguish them as followers of Sikhism. Sikhism's signature on the bodies of its believers is unmistakable. 5 bodily symbols adorn the Sikh body. Among the 5, a key symbol that distinguishes Sikhs from others is uncut hair or kesh. The other symbols are the wooden comb that keep the kesh in place, the iron bracelet worn on the right fist, the right wrist, a military form of undershorts, and the iron or steel dagger, universally known as the 5 Ks. The kesh, the kanga, the kada, the kachera, the kirpan, observed by Sikhs across the world. Amongst the most important rituals for Sikhs is the initiation ceremony, when individuals are formally enfolded into the community of the Khalsa. The Khalsa is a term rooted in the Arabic word khalis, to mean pure, absolutely honed. The ritual, widely referred to as Khande di Pahul, symbolically transforms a person to a member of a congregational community through the tasting of amrit or nectar, which is actually sweetened water consecrated by stirring it with a double-edged sword. That's what makes amrit, and that is what is drunk. Sikhs believe they are like drops of water in an ocean, and while each drop retains its individual composition, it also merges and mingles with others, just to form a bounded body like an ocean. The ritual ends with consuming kada prasad, which is a sweetened food shared by the gathered devotees, and of course observing the bodily symbols, the 5 Ks. Sikh bodies, as you see before you, are very particular and very recognizable. The Sikh body on the right-hand side of your screen, the male body, is perhaps the most recognizable. And the 2 symbols that are extremely visible are the beard or the uncut hair, the kesh that is bound, or the hair, uncut hair that is bound upon the head, and the kirpan or the dagger. On the other side, you also see the female Sikh devotee adopting the turban and carrying the kirpan, and of course wearing the kada. And you see the kada much more visibly on her hand, though it is of course worn by him as well. Visually speaking then, it is the turban that points towards uncut hair. Turbans are not one of the 5 Ks, but as an expression of followers of the faith, turbans are a critical focus of ritual attention, playing a key role in the Sikh ritual universe. Invested with ideas of status, turban tying rituals mark transitions from one state of personhood or one stage of life to another. When a man dies, for example, his corpse is formally dressed, the kesh or the uncut hair carefully tied and covered with a turban, and sartorially marks the journey and transformation of himself as a mortal person, moving towards a new status amongst the revered ancestors, the Pitra. The kin of the dead man then tie a turban on his eldest son, ritually passing on the father's status to his heir in the life cycle ritual of Pagdi di Rasam. A boy's first turban is also ritually tied, usually by his maternal uncle or a kin from his mother's family side, at a dastar ritual, marking his entry into manhood. Gurdwaras encourage turban tying competitions of Dastar Band Samagam, conveying a sacred recognition to turbans. As you see now in the figure that I'm going to show you, here is a turban tying ceremony being done in a Gurdwara, a Sikh shrine, and this young boy is literally being initiated into the community by the tying of the turban upon his head. Both terms, pagdi and dastar, are found in the Sikh scriptures, though the use of each is used in a somewhat different context. Those who consider themselves sophisticated, urbane, or aristocratic use the term dastar. It's a term of Persian origin. Pagdi is more generally used in everyday speech and is certainly evident in rural speech. So you hear it much more often on buses that go from village to village than you might hear the word dastar. Frequently, in fact, the English term turban is used in discussions, in a sense indicating the travel of the turban and of those who wear the turban. A young British Sikh boy interviewed during a summer camp seamlessly shifted between English and Punjabi terms, speaking of his turban and his uncut hair as a defining sign or nishani of his faith. Historically, turbans played a central role in creating a sense of distinct community of Sikhism. Soldiers in the army of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the renowned Sikh ruler who brought together disparate Sikh confederacies under one empire in the 19th century, his army wore turbans as part of their uniform. The Tat Khalsa, a prominent religious organization of the late 19th and early 20th century, as an organization endorsed the warrior codes of Sikhism, promoted the adoption of the turban as a mark of Sikh Khalsa warrior identity. The turban was an indicator of uncut male hair of Keshdhari Khalsa Sikhs, closely linked to Sikh warrior codes and martial orientations. The colonial Sikh army coupled the turban with Sikh religion and identity, And Sikh regiments of the British Indian Army actually wore turbans as part of their uniforms. It was a compulsory part of the uniform, in fact. I'll turn now to the scripture and the shrine as the two other nodes of recognizing Sikhism. So along with the recognizably ritualized body, the other two institutions that locate and anchor Sikhism, the scripture and the shrine, the Granth and the Gurdwara. The scriptural text, the Guru Granth Sahib, lies at the heart of Sikhism. When Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru, closed the line of succession to spiritual leadership of the faith, he transferred the authority of the Guru to the Granth, to the scripture. The book, as an embodiment of the Guru, has conclusive authority, governing affairs of all Sikhs, or so it is believed. A continuous, uninterrupted reading and recitation of the Granth, the Akhand Path, continuing over days and nights for 48 hours, marks momentous occasions and momentous moments in the personal and social lives of Sikhs. People are formally invited to come and sit and to listen to the recitation. At the end of the Akhand Path, Kada Prasad, made of semolina and clarified butter, is shared amongst the gathered Sangat, the congregational community, who sit together to hear the scripture and participate in being communities. So if you look at the slide before you, you see here how the book is elevated on a platform. It's covered by a canopy. It's covered also by embroidered robes or rumals. The Guru Granth Sahib is, in a sense, sitting in Darbar, the court of the divine. So it is treated as Guru, as person. It is personified. It is the embodiment of Guru. In fact, the presence of the Granth in any space transforms that space into a sacred place. So the Granth is a presence and it is treated as persons. So in fact, there are many rituals surrounding the physical book that treat the Granth as an honored sacred person. The Granth is cared for, it's ritually awakened early in the morning, it's carried in procession on the heads of the devotees in a palanquin, accompanied by drums and horns, and it's cooled with a ceremonial fly whisk. It's offered oblations, food, it is fed, it's covered with rumals or robes, as you see, and it is laid upon a bed at night to rest. In fact, old copies of the Granth, which are fragile, are then ritually cremated, rather like persons, in the ritual cremation that mortals also undergo. Let me show you the procession of the Granth. And here you see that the Granth, having been awakened from its night's rest, is then carried to a space where it will sit in audience, as it were, rather like the Guru, and it is carried from one place to another with the sounds of ritual musical instruments that accompany the procession in this short walk from nighttime to daytime. The recitation of verses of the Granth, the Shabad, cast a kind of oral canopy of sacredness over the space in which the scripture is recited and the hymns are sung. A continuous reading of the Granth, as I said, the Akhand Path, is central to many rituals. Individual devotees read parts of the scripture every day, but on ceremonial occasions or for recitations in shrines, experts actually schooled to recite the Granth are invited to recite and sing the hymns and the poetry of the scripture. So for Sikhs, the Granth is both a sacred being and authority, creating the Sikh Panth, the bounded community of believers. They are all bound, as it were. They are all around the scripture. And as you see here, the scriptural hymns are being sung before the Granth, as it were. The Granth is laid out and people sing the scriptures accompanied to a kind of sacred sound of music. The fly whisk is put there, and at points it will be the Granth itself, the book will be cooled, the fly whisk will be waved over the Granth. The other clear manifestation of Sikhism is the shrine or the Gurdwara. Literally translating as the door or gateway to the divine Guru, the shrine as sacred space is where the Granth is housed. Globally, the Golden Temple, so named because of its gilded roof covered by gold leaf, is perhaps amongst the best known and globally recognized shrines of Sikhism. The Harmandir Sahib, to give the Golden Temple its correct name, its formal name, forms the heart of a larger complex of historic buildings and spaces in the North Indian city of Amritsar. Together, the Harmandir Sahib and these other buildings constitute what is known as the Darbar Sahib, the honored or revered court. Harmandir Sahib stands in the Amrit Sarovar, or the pool of nectar, encircled by a walkway or the parikrama. I will come back to discussing the parikrama a little later. So this you see before you is the Darbar Sahib complex, and the Harmandir Sahib placed in its pool of nectar is very clear. Before it, there are two other very clear symbolic built parts of the built landscape. There are two orange flags that you see called the Nishan Sahib. Wherever a Gurdwara is found, wherever a Gurdwara is established, the first thing that you see is the Nishan Sahib, or the flag, indicating the presence of a sacred Gurdwara or a sacred shrine of Sikhism. The second is the other golden dome, which is a very premier building, again something I will discuss, called the Akal Takht. Connecting the Akal Takht to the Harmandir is, to the forecourt of this, is another key building within the Darbar Sahib complex. The Akal Takht, throne of the timeless, which is connected to the Harmandir by this narrow causeway. You'll see it in the next slide, which I will show you. The Akal Takht, the throne of the timeless, is in fact faces the Harmandir, and pilgrims literally and metaphorically cross the water between the temporal sovereignty of the throne embodied in the Akal Takht and the spiritual authority embodied by the Harmandir, the spiritual heart of Sikhism. Let me show you the little causeway. It's full of people. It's a narrow causeway over the water. The two key shrines of the Harmandir, the spiritual heart of the Darbar Sahib complex, and the Akal Takht, the throne or court of kingly authority, symbolize a central principle of Sikhism: the twinning, the coming together of secular or temporal authority and spiritual authority. The sixth of the 10 gurus, Sikh gurus, wore two crossed swords on his torso, Miri and Piri, signifying the twin sources of legitimacy and authority, the spiritual and the temporal. In common with many Indic rituals, devotees and pilgrims take a complete round of the parikrama, keeping the Harmandir to their right as part of any ritual visit to any sacred shrine like the Gurdwara. Devotees spend time to clean the walkway, the parikrama, or the sarovar in acts of seva, labor as worship. The sacred complex of the Darbar Sahib as an architectural text spatially and visually embodies what are in fact quite abstract religious principles. So you can literally see before you, as you move through the Darbar Sahib complex, the ideas that symbolize and identify Sikhism as a distinct religion. Every Gurdwara, large or small, in villages or in urban neighborhoods, is the hub of social life. Apart from recitations of the scripture, the Guru Granth, Gurdwara loudspeakers or announcements from the Gurdwara broadcast news of everything from vaccinations, election dates, and other important events around which the social, political life of the locality revolve. In the village where I lived and worked for my doctoral thesis, for example, the people who looked after the Gurdwara, the village Gurdwara, the functionaries of the village Gurdwara, in fact visited the homes of all the Sikh devotees every day, and they were offered uncooked food or cooked food or grain to make food for the community meal or for the Kada Prasad. The collection, as it were, of food was, and it still remains, a kind of daily affirmation of cohesive community, a daily expression of belonging to community. However, all religions don't live in scriptures and institutions. They are lived. They live through their rituals. They are experienced as a ritual life of people who belong to a faith. So I'd like to very briefly turn to the universe of collective rituals, at least some collective rituals, that mark the lived religion of Sikhism. One is Kar Seva, called selfless service, service of the body given selflessly for the community as well as for others who are not part of the community. The second is the langar, or the community meal, shared with anyone who is present. The ardas, the prayer of supplication and petition, is a very important part of Sikhism's ritual universe. So like all religions, Sikhism is marked by numerous rituals, both publicly performed or, of course, oriented towards the personal and individual lives. Kar Seva, or selfless manual labor, is a devotional practice for Sikhs. It orients individuals outwards, beyond the bounded community, to serve others and, of course, the community, members of the community as a whole. Kar Seva values work of the hand, of the body, of the person, manual labor, as a performance of commitment to the faith. Whether it is in cooking or feeding others, cleaning wounds of injured, or washing and swabbing the areas of shrines, Kar Seva is a key performative ritual for Sikhs. And here in the slide, you see the performance of Kar Seva in the Darbar Sahib, where a man is actually washing and cleaning the parikrama. The women on the right side of your screen are cleaning and washing and swabbing the entryway into the shrine itself. So Kar Seva is performed by very ordinary devotees, and it's undertaken as part of a visit to a Gurdwara. So it's, as I said, an expression of what you do when you go to a shrine. It's how you express your devotion. The other is langar, and perhaps one of the best known public rituals of Sikhism, the langar, or the free community meal. It's collectively prepared by devotees, usually, but not always, in a Gurdwara. It's served to everyone who is present, And the langar, in some senses, lies at the heart of the anti-caste critiques that emerged in early Sikh philosophy, so that it didn't matter who sat and shared food, who was fed, who was sitting next to you, everybody was treated identically and served identical food. In the Darbar Sahib, the shrine that we just spoke of, the langar serves about 50,000 people a day. And the numbers increase dramatically to 100,000 or even more on special festival occasions, especially on days commemorating the Sikh Gurus or any other ritual occasions that are marked. The next and other key ritual that I want to talk about today, which I think is also a deeply identifiable ritual through which Sikhism is recognized, is Ardas, or the collective prayer. The Ardas remembers Sikh martyrs, and it is recited at the end of each day in a very ritually specialized and specified fashion, facing the scriptural text with folded hands. Etymology actually links the Ardas to the Persian word Ardast, or petition, so that the Ardas is simultaneously a supplication as well as a petition to the divine. Some aspects of the recitation are mandatory. They're recited everywhere. Though there are variant versions, and these exist, though very usually brief and without a set text, these insertions are personal or community pleas, or sometimes very contextual and even political. Here you see the image before you, which is the Ardas in the forecourt of the Akal Takht of the Darbar Sahib. And everybody is standing up. They are facing the scriptural text, towards which itself is housed inside the Harmandir and the Akal. They are in the Akal Takht forecourt. So people stand and pray to the scripture, to the Guru, and ask or supplicate themselves to the Guru in the prayer of Ardas.